So we are brought together here to pay homage to our fellow Europeans in Ukraine and to hear many stories from people both inside and outside the country now who are going to share with us how their life has changed, but also remind us about the kind of creative things that they've been doing to keep going. And we look forward to hearing from many diverse speakers from all walks of life and understanding how we can cope with what is happening today and also to, of course, help. So for anyone that does want to help, if you go into the chat, I have put a document in there which has a long list of many charities that you can read about, and you can decide which of them are the kind of causes that you would like to support. Many of you have already done this through our website, but of course today is a great day to take a moment to do that if you haven't. So I'm going to introduce you now to Lee Edelkoort, who is the co-founder of World Hope Forum with me, and she will open the session.
Philip, can you just wait a second because the interpreters need to get back on.
Okay, no problem. The interpreters are coming back. Okay. So for those of you that are already here, some of the presentations will be in Ukrainian instead of in English. So whenever that happens, you can use the interpretation channel, which is the small globe at the bottom of the screen. There is a channel for English and a channel for Ukrainian. So in either direction, we have 4 wonderful translators who have given us their time today as a gift, and they will be translating the different presentations. So depending on the language that you prefer, please use the interpretation channel.
Okay, we should be good. Thank you.
We're okay? Okay, thanks, Ragnar.
Welcome, everybody. It's a real honor to be together with Tetiana, who is our ambassador and who has been my agent for a long time. She has invited me many times to come to Kiev, and later also Philip. We have been working with the creative community in Ukraine for maybe 2 decades, I think. And so we know them very well. We know how creative they can be against all odds sometimes in their country. And we know that they are very keen Europeans, and we hope they will join us as soon as possible, you know, in the current situation. It is rather unbelievable because it's only 2 years ago that we founded this World Hope Forum when we were in lockdown in South Africa together, with the goal to stimulate hope, to not give up, to work for a better world, to work for a world of equality, and a world which is taking care of its planet, and a world which will sort of completely restructure the way we do things. But little could we expect at that moment that we today would be now at a table with a very, very different subject, the subject of war in our time, in our age, and very near to the European borders. It is a crucial day, I think, because we need to understand better how it is to live and survive this pressure, how to cope, how to use creativity in this type of extreme situations. I think it's going to teach us all many details, maybe even for our own life, sometimes in conflict. And we are deeply, deeply touched by the fact that the speakers will all share with us their trauma, but also their victories and their belonging to our community. And we hope to be back in the country as soon as possible. And if this is a longer period of war, we will come back at one point to again measure the situation. Yeah, I think we should start because we have a very beautiful full program which is curated by Tetiana, and I think she should take the lead now. Thank you for being here, everybody.
Welcome, Tetiana.
Unmute.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee and Philippe. Can you hear me and see
Yeah.
me?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your introduction, and thank you for this initiative to make a WHF Forum for Ukraine. It wasn't easy. Yeah, it's really true. And of course, it wasn't easy to make everything happen. But I hope that, and I hope, yeah, we hope it's the most important world during this day, and not only these days. It's one of our, the most important world in our life now. So just few words about me, and thank you again for the introduction, because I also wanted to express my memories of our collaboration, because almost 20 years I'm working in the field of interior design, lifestyle, architecture, fashion industries. We are organizing different events, educational events for creative people. And almost 15 years ago, we started and I'm co-founder of our company, Creascope, which was before called as CreaPro. And since 2007, we started to organize events with Trend Union. And we actually made many of them. And a lot of our audience still remember each of our presentations you made in Kiev and your team. And last 5 years, we were organizing creative business conference, Creascope, also for creatives, and we were sharing with them European experience, and different European practice, just to inspire, to give, and to give more, and give new instruments for their creativities. And many educational events for medium and small business entrepreneurs. But now we are almost stopped with all our activities. And I can say that since 24th of February, the life of all Ukrainians has changed forever. There is no one Ukrainian who would not have faced this war, and who didn't have his own trauma and his own story, and story of the loved one. And this war has left really scars and injuries on everyone, without exception. Even children, everyone going through their own trauma. And many of us now forcibly scattered around the world and forced to move to western part of Ukraine. Many of us stayed at home and continue to live, to help, to protect our country, to win, and they fight for freedom, for independence, for Ukraine. And on February 24, I met this war in Austria. I came here for my daughter's holiday, and I got stuck. And till the end, I didn't believe that war would happen, despite the fact that there were a lot of information around, and the information field was quite electrified. And everybody was talking about emergency rucksack, about bomb shelters, about bomb shelters near the school. But at the same time, there were no single logical explanation that a full-scale war would begin with bombing attacks on schools, on kindergartens, on hospitals, on maternity hospitals. And so it was really scary. We didn't have plan B. And since the beginning of the war, there was a lot of a big numbers of questions, and we still don't have answers on them. So first of all, it's a safety of yourself and your family. And first months of the war, I was completely paralyzed, and I actually felt myself to be on the first step of Maslow pyramids. So it was completely different life. I was born in Chernihiv. It's not far, it's nearby Belarus and Russia border. And the city really stopped movement of Russian troops toward Kiev. And from the first day, it was clear that it was very dangerous because the non-stop bombing attacks and all the day. And we were in contact with our parents and trying to ask them to leave, to evacuate, but they didn't want to. They refused. And after a couple of weeks, when the electricity there was no electricity, no water, no heating, and problem with internet and mobile connection. So staying many weeks, a couple of weeks in the underground dugouts, and really it was very exhausting for them. They were very exhausted emotionally and physically. So after spending several weeks in such conditions, they finally accepted, and it wasn't easy, but we realized we managed to evacuate them. And the next day they left the city. The bridge which connected the city on Kiev direction was destroyed. And they are safe now and plan to come back soon at home because they miss it too much. And I want also to share my stories about communication, because it was very complicated to communicate externally. And music, films, and beautiful objects. You couldn't, everything which wasn't connected with word, you just rejected. It was really complicated. And the number of hours we spent in our phone was really high. And we were trying to find a ray of hope, to find a sign that we can come back at home. And when we realized that it's too dangerous still to come back, your brain was started to adapt and to accept this situation and to act locally. So my daughter went to school, and I'm so appreciative to parents, to school teachers for all their helps, to all their willingness to help us. It's unforgettable. And I can say that memories of their helps we will never forget to the end of our life. It's so touchable, and everything they were sharing with us. And of course, such word like refugee, it's hard us. We don't want to be called like a refugee. We were also trying to find appropriate, more or less word, but it's like a forcibly moved, temporary, forcibly moved. And only now, when I found myself so far away from my home, I feel so deeply. It's pierced myself when I realized that, on example of my family, in the framework of those generation I know, my grandfather family was dekulakized. It means that they forcibly moved from their city because they lived in a normal life with their houses, and they were able to maintain their farm. They were forcibly moved to Chernihiv area. But before they lived in Donetsk, where now very strong military actions still are going through. So my grandmother's family, she was also dekolekized. So she also moved to another city. My grandmother's family died during famous Holodomor period of time. It's a great famine when this is artificial artificial famine of peasant, because it wasn't allowed even to take some food from your own land. And my grandmother, she left from, she was one of the five children, so she only one realized to survive in this period of time at 11 years old. She was 11 years old. So it's really, you realized how it's difficult and how it was a very difficult period of time during also Soviet Union, because it was very demonized. And now one of the most clear questions that we don't have this war hasn't started only on 24th of February, or even 8 years before. It was continuously going through hundreds of years. And just the example of my own family, they were constantly moved and suffered because of Soviet Union government. And of course, now we are always searching for transformation, and we are thinking how to change and how our life is changing and how we have to reinvent our life. And even on the example of our Creascope team, almost all our colleagues now also, they moved and they now across different countries in the world. So a lot of people, they are forced, and a lot of people now forced to reinvent their life. And
so I think that's really important, Tetiana, and this idea of reinventing in the past 8 years, but also over all of these decades, is what has made the people there so strong. And
yeah.
I think that the first speaker that you have invited today is going to give us a sort of more context to that sort of background, to that identity. So maybe you want to introduce that?
Yes, it's very important, I suppose, to everybody, because it's such a strong and very wide topic. And and I would like to also to share with you information about all our speakers, because we collect very interesting, and we realize together all them today, very interesting people with their own stories. And the first speakers, Natalia Krivda, she's very inspiring for me person. She is a culturologist and a scientific person who is she author of a lot of different books, and I suppose that her story and her topic about our cultural difference will help our audience to realize and to understand why this war is still going on and why everything is happening. So Natalia.